for our next topic, we're going to get into the love of 2D, the sad demise of 2D pixel art games. And discussion would really have to start around CRTs. So CRTs are really the reason people made pixel art to begin with. Like you had to make them fit, and you had to design games in a very specific way to work well on a CRT, right? And if you guys don't have CRTs, you should have at least one CRT in your house because it's the proper way to play old school games. First of all, second of all, that art was designed to fit on it, so unless you have an upscaler or certain technology, and you try to plug one of those systems in to a modern TV, it's going to look like crap. First of all, it was not designed for it.
Yeah, absolutely disgusting.
It's horrible.
Inducing.
Yeah.
Yes.
But then you plug it into a CRT, it's like, oh, this looks great. This is so much better.
Yeah, it's probably true. I don't actually have a CRT. I don't think I ever had a CRT personally.
Oh my, you're breaking my heart, man. You need to go get one.
Yeah, sure. This is the time. This is the moment.
Dude, the good ones are going for $500 to $600 now. And the really good ones are going for over $1,000.
No.
Wow.
I mean, maybe one day. I don't know. You have many pixels in a 4K OLED. Like they're gonna simulate it well enough. I hope. I mean, I don't know.
If you have an upscaler or something to fix it, yes.
I believe you. I believe you. It's fine. I just don't have time for that right now. But I believe you. No, it's true. It's true. I understand that's what kind of inspired that aesthetic as well, like the 2D, and explains the way that those games looked and mechanically how they worked as well.
Exactly. There was a reason behind that style, right?
Yeah.
But I love it. I love 2D, man. I miss 2D so much. I mean, back in the day, that's really all we had was 2D until the rise of polygons. You know, with Virtual Fighter and then Tekken, and it just kind of went from there. The PlayStation introduced 3D, but I don't know, man. I miss side-scrolling, flat, hand-drawn 2D art.
Yeah, no, it's true. I actually, something that we didn't say in the interview before. I think that my first real crazy love for video games started in the arcades. I remember seeing like Samurai Showdown 2, and that art was incredible.
It was great. It was
like
great.
Yeah, and those sprites were just beautiful, and
those were CRTs also.
Well, I'm sure. I guess then yeah, sure. I've seen them.
Yeah, like you definitely saw CRTs. Maybe you didn't know one, but you've certainly seen them.
Yeah, and I remember being completely heartbroken when like Street Fighter 4 became 3D. I was like, what are you doing? Why are you breaking it?
It was the same thing with Mortal Kombat. When they made Mortal Kombat 4, I think it was 3D. Yeah. I was like, this is terrible. I was like, what the hell is this?
Yeah.
Man.
But, I think of Symphony of the Night, Castlevania. Gorgeous 2D
That's
game.
True.
Or I think of, from SNK, like you said, Samurai Showdown or Metal Slug. 2D art. I miss it.
Definitely. It is... It's something that like has become a bit of a style today, but I also fear that like we talked about it, the Square Enix look of it that they've done, kind of bringing back the big chunky pixels. It's nice, but I also feel like it kind of bastardizes it a bit because it puts it as if it was cutouts in a 3D world, and it just looks dirty often. I just miss the cleaner, I don't know, the Secret of Mana looking pixels, they're really, I don't know. It all felt like there was a more of a hierarchy of the information. It was very well presented for you to recognize your sprite in the background, in the world. Every sprite was thought out to be readable from a distance with the limited pixels that they had. And so everything like that 2D HD and kind of like that sort of like, I don't know, modern pixel art often, I don't know, looks dirty. It just doesn't.
I'll take it. I'll take it. But
sure.
I think that the stuff that all of us would enjoy more would be like the stuff that Any Crates does with like Curse of the Moon,
Sure.
is awesome,
Yeah.
awesome art. I mean, that is like a true old school game in a modern, with modern consoles.
Yeah, I mean, and there is a few that have actually done a fairly good job with that, with more interesting takes on like the 2D art, like the I don't know if we spoke about this before, but like the Dead Cells, because Dead Cells is really interesting in the way that it does like the Mortal Kombat thing. It makes the 3D characters, but it renders them out into 2D sprites, and then it uses the 2D sprites as the character in the world. So everything looks a lot flatter, and they can do cooler effects and kind of like less constrained by the movements of 3D and anything like that. So that's kind of a cool wink to that in that way.
Yeah, the
And
art
yeah,
looks great. I wish I could get into that game. That's like one. If you're like name 5 games you wish you could get into, that would definitely be on my list of like. I wish it wasn't a roguelike. I wish it was just a damn regular like
yeah,
Metroidvania style game, and I would be all over that in
yeah.
2 seconds.
Well, Matt,
Well,
this
we
could
talked about.
that could be a topic for later, for a future show.
I remember we talked about Hollow Knight too. Then, but
Yes.
you still haven't. Have you gotten back into it? No.
No, not. I mean, I have it. It's going to be played. You've taken it from like I've almost forgot about the game to like
Don't forget
probably
about it.
like here's the problem. I got Zelda now, so Zelda's like here, and Hollow Knight's like here, and Zelda's like an hour. If once I start Zelda, my life is over. Which used before I had a child, it would probably be like my life is over for a month or two. Now it's like 6 to 9 months. Like that's what I'm looking
Yeah.
at with Zelda. Like it's gonna take me forever to get through that game now.
You're never gonna do it, huh? You're
I don't-
never gonna do it.
As the sequel gets closer, the pressure will be on, and I have a feeling I'm just
Yeah.
gonna be like, I just gotta go through. How many hours would you say the game is, if you had to guess?
It depends, but if you want to do like a real full completion, it's probably over 50, 60 hours.
Oh man, that's a
Wow.
lot. Oof.
And, yeah,
Ooh.
and if you're good, because I think that for me it actually took like 80
Oh
hours to
shit!
beat the whole game, like complete, like 115%, I believe, is the completion. You can do
Gotta
that
love
thing
that.
of
Gotta love
yeah.
that.
over 100% of completion. But no, that's one fantastic like 2D game that doesn't do the pixel art, but it is actually using the more modern technology to keep it kind of keep that expression, keep that clarity of action, and it's very successful at that. Kind of using both worlds because the technology does allow it to be 3D if it wanted, like it could be 3D. Much like the Ori and the Blind Forest games, which they
Oh,
are 3D.
those
They
games
are
are
3D.
so good, so good.
But yeah, they use a lot of that to kind of evoke that 2D feeling, right?
Yeah, I mean, those games feel like 2D games. Like, you know, they basically are. The art's just not exactly the same, like you were mentioning before. But
yeah,
I mean, to me, those are like they're like this close to being that. It's like right there.
for sure. Those are pretty games.
You ever
So
played
then,
Ori?
Yeah. Huh?
what do we think about like the 2.5D? Like,
Well, that's a 2.5D kind of.
because I think the first thing 2.5D that comes to my mind is Shadow Complex, because it was on a 2D plane, but the environments and the characters had that 3D model look to them.
Yeah.
Let me.
But what about Mortal Kombat? Does Mortal Kombat count as 2.5D?
Yeah.
I guess so nowadays. I mean, I think that you have to be kind of careful with those games because, like, if you look at like what is Limbo, Limbo's considered a bit of like a 2D game.
Limbo is so good. Oh my god.
It's very good as well. but what about Inside as well? Again,
Inside
very good.
is even better. Inside is way better than Limbo, and Limbo is fantastic.
But that's almost a fully 3D game, almost, right? Like it.
Yeah.
You can't walk into the screen, but yesterday I started playing this Planet of Lana game, which looks beautiful. It looks incredible. And it is a fully 3D game, but but it does move in the 2D plane. It's a 2.5D game, but yeah, I don't know if the 2.5D-ness of it really helps it in a way, or if it really, yeah, if it really needed that in a way. I think that sometimes that actually muddles with the clarity of the action. Like a lot of the puzzles, you're not sure where you're colliding with something, where you're going to climb with something. So in those cases, sometimes it's a little bit more. I don't know if it's beneficial. It
I guess
looks
what it
very
comes
pretty.
down to is the art, right? Because the art, at the end of the day, the art is going to win me over and let me forget about
Mhm.
it. Because if the games that we're bringing up now, like, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah, and they're
Hmm.
not like true 2D. But if you look
Yeah,
at I'll go back to you know Bloodstained, which wasn't Curse of the Moon. It was Bloodstained Ritual of the Night. That was
yeah, then
2.5D, and I was like, eh. The art was
yeah.
fun. It was like, eh, whatever.
Mhm.
But the ones that
Mhm.
that were the 2D ones were like so much better in my opinion. I mean, as far as the
Right,
art goes, I'm only talking about art, nothing else. The
right.
2D ones
I
were
mean, I
so much
didn't
better.
play the 2D ones, but yeah.
Why? Oh my god, you got to play the 2D ones, man. Did you like
Yeah.
Castlevania 3?
Yes, I have played that game. I haven't really played Castlevanias.
It's like
That's
they're like
before my
Castlevania.
time.
Oh, so
I,
good.
I I went back to play Metroid.
Mm.
That's how much I have a hole in my backstory of games, because it's, yeah, I just didn't play games back in the day.
I understand.
So
I understand. I'm not
yeah,
judging. There's plenty of stuff that I miss too.
and I would love to maybe go back to those games. A lot of the older games. That's my issue with like a lot of the 2D art in some ways, is that like it's anchored in gameplay that is just difficult to go back to now. Like I think that a lot of those games are
You're,
beautiful.
it depends on what you're talking about, though. Wes, can
I'm
you tell
sure.
him about the greatness of 2D games back in the
Oh
day?
man,
No, I believe.
they were colorful. They were fun. It was just I think of like a stall for Sega Saturn. It's
Right.
beautifully painted. It's very bright and colorful. It's just oh man, 2D gaming was it.
No, I definitely believe it. I'm not trying to say that it's not. It's just something that going back to it from now, sometimes a lot of old
Mm,
games are just
mm,
hard
nope,
to no.
It just
Like
no.
at least control wise, no?
depends. It depends.
Yeah,
The
I
people who
imagine
go back
so.
and are like, GoldenEye is trash, I'm like, you need to play it for more than 10 minutes. You need to spend more than 10 minutes trying to play the damn game, and you'll understand
Right.
how good it was.
No, there are games from back then that I really do love, but I do find even the ones that I do love, going back now, sometimes I'm like, oh shit, this is hard to play now with my mind the way that it works.
I understand that.
Uh,
I
I
get
could
that.
get that.
yeah, but I definitely know. I know. Like I remember, like my experience, like playing the Prince of Persia, the the Mac one with the black and white, and I thought that it was a perfectly fine game. And now I play it, and I'm like, you press the button to jump, and there's like 2 full seconds where the guy's just running to his death. I'm like,
Yeah.
what's happening here? But you look at it, even now, you look at that game, and it's actually kind of beautiful. The animations and everything, it's pretty impressive. Like the rotoscoping battles and stuff that
Mhm.
you had to kind of like, yeah, you had to plan ahead of the battles because you could like attack, parry, counterattack. It's like pretty cool.
I went back
But
and
yeah,
played the original Tomb Raider a few months ago on PS1.
ooh,
Holy
that was.
crap, man! Like I'll give you that, man. I I probably spent 45 minutes just reconfiguring myself to the controller. I was like, this is insane. Like I can't believe how difficult
Mm.
this game is to play like today.
That game was never good. Like, well, sorry, going back
Mm.
to
Tomb
Ooh.
Raider. Well,
going back to
it's
Sonic,
not great
right?
today, but
Going back to Sonic, right?
oh no, what are you trying to do here? What are you trying to start, Bernardo?
No, I do. I honestly, I do want to make my case about Sonic. I think that Sonic looks cool. Sonic has incredible music, but I don't think that Sonic was ever well designed in the sense of there's one level in every Sonic game that's fantastic that allows you to go fast and finish the level. That's it. That's all you want. It's a racing game, really. But like Sonic always has to be like, oh, actually, we're gonna put an obstacle here that requires you to jump at exactly the right time and bounce off and like start running up the other way. And if you're not pressing the button in the right direction, you're gonna start slowing down, and then you can't make that jump. And then you're stuck in this like middle of a curve where you can't run one way or the other without enough momentum, and it just feels so shitty.
So like, here's why. In the 90s, if you count inflation, games were way more expensive in the 90s than they are now.
Sure.
You didn't get games all the time, man, unless your family was rich. So
I'm sure
those lessons that it taught you were so you could play that level 500 times and get your money's worth out of the game.
I guess. But still, there's so much momentum, there's so much speed, and it just goes so counter to the exploration of those levels. You know, it's one or the other.
You know what actually feels good is the new Sonic game. The new Sonic game's in an open world, so it kind of gives you more freedom to do the speed without being
Are you talking of the just recent one?
It's
Frontier?
actually, yeah.
Is it good?
It's good. Is it great? Probably wouldn't call it great. It is the best 3D Sonic game since the Dreamcast ones. I'll put it that way.
And that game did make me buy a Dreamcast.
Well, here we go. That's what I'm telling you, man. Like, it has a solid foundation. And being in the open space allows you to continue that momentum without having to stop constantly.
That's good. Does it have chows, though?
I mean, of course it doesn't have chows. I mean, who? Come on, man. You're asking them to bring back the VMU. And I mean, that would be the greatest day of all days if we had a VMU again.
You don't even need a VMU now. You just make an app, and you can have your chows right here. It'd be wonderful. That's what we need. Games as a service. Chow Garden as a service. Gotcha, chow.
The Dreamcast is probably Wes's favorite system, right? We went over this before, Wes. That's your favorite system.
Yes, it is.
I mean, you're talking... And I had a Dreamcast when it came out. I mean... There's a lot of love for the Dreamcast, man.
Yeah. It's probably one of my favorite ones as well because it's the first system that I bought with my own money.
I think it might have been mine, actually, too. I think it was. Yeah. It was. That's interesting.
Yeah. Anyway, we super went off topic here.
It's fine.
I guess we kind of went into the other topic, sort of, into the next topic that I'm looking at here.
We did, and we're going to get into that in just a moment, because I need a beer.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sure 2D games are wonderful. I'm just ignorant. I do need to get back to that. I will play Castlevanias.
You don't understand like the feelings of Ninja Gaiden when I was like 7 years old playing this badass ninja, and there was cutscenes for like the first time I really remember seeing cutscenes. I was like, holy shit, this is like the pinnacle of video games.
I feel like they'd frustrate me now. I just suck really bad at them.
Look, there is some bullshit. There's like knockback where like an enemy will hit, knockback. You get hit by an enemy, you get thrown off an edge. That shit is brutal in Ninja Gaiden. That shit happens all the time. But then you learn like the way that the game functions, and you're like, all right, I know how to do this now. After like 1,000 times of you dying, you figure it out. Like eventually.
I've tried going back to like I know that it's not the thing, but like Mega Man, because I thought, hey, I've never played any Mega Mans. Some years ago, I had never played any Mega Mans ever. And so I went back to 1, 2, 3, and I tried playing a few of those. And like, those games are unplayable. The way that like how sticky you are, how much you have to jump. And like, it's very specific what you need to be doing in order to play those games properly. There's no improvisation.
It's a pattern, man. Yeah. Everything's a pattern back then.
Games were designed in that way, which is cool, but it's like nowadays just my brain doesn't work that way. I don't know. I feel I would have to go back and just really learn. Really sit down and learn it. This is how you do it.
I don't know that you would get over that hump, though, because games are so much more complex now. Like if you started there, you'd have an appreciation for it. But going back, I can understand going back would be so much more difficult. It's like, why did they do this? Because they had to. There was nothing else to do. Like this is what they
Yeah.
had. You know,
There's certain complexities.
Well, but here's a question for you though: Are you viewing those games through the eyes of a developer or as a gamer?
I mean, sometimes I guess it's unavoidable. Like I like to think of it as a developer because I also think of like this would have been fun to make because it would have been like the first time that you'd make something like that, right? But oftentimes it's very interesting to see them because like there was not that much different like technological leaps that you could make in games back then. So when you look at Castlevania versus Metroid versus Mario, like they are in a functional level basically the same, right? It's not what you are doing in the game. It's not that there's like extra technology or the only ways in which they differentiate themselves is kind of like in goals and how you accomplish those goals in different ways, right?
okay.
Because Metroid has a world which not neither of the other ones really have. Mario has kind of an overworld and like different levels, but and Castlevania kind of the originals were not really like open
They have they
worldish,
have
were
a they
they?
have a map, but they're
Yeah,
Right.
all linear levels.
yeah. But like yeah, in many ways the aesthetics of those games were what defined the games. So it's kind of interesting to see what they made, like the different changes that they made to differentiate themselves, which today, like when you're looking at like I don't know, a 4X game or a like a third person shooter, they're just like they're way different in ways, you know.
I mean, I would argue
um
that the combat would be the biggest thing between them because
yeah,
Mario versus Zelda versus Castlevania, they all have very different combat, and that goes back to like I think Wes
yeah,
probably agrees with me with this more. Gameplay is king. Like your
A
story
hundred
yeah,
and
for
percent.
sure.
all that stuff is fantastic, but if your game feels great to play, nothing
Yeah.
else really matters at the end of the day. At least for me
Mhm.
personally.
100%
Yeah,
agree.
especially in that type. I'm thinking that I actually said really stupid shit because there's also like adventure games. There was also adventure games that were completely different functionally, um, and there's more. I mean, 4X or real time strategy always existed. Basically, it's
Mhm.
one of those
Those
that
people are
was there.
psychopaths, though. That doesn't count. Nobody's playing strategy.
I used to love what was it that I well, Warcraft 2 was the first one, but I used to really love Alpha Centauri 1. That was a game that I literally lost 18 hours to straight. I didn't do anything other than play that game for
Holy
18 hours.
crap.
Wow.
Yeah.
I
See,
think my
that
longest run might be like 10 hours. Like 18 hours is a long time, dude. Like
it was very very long. When I was young too, like I didn't like yeah, it was very responsible and terrible. I was left to my own devices and I learned where are my adults supervising me? Like there should be adults here preventing me from doing this shit.
your parents didn't even want you playing games. How the hell did you end up in that situation?
Well, it was studying technically. Yeah.
Okay.
No, but it was in holiday, so it was off
Okay.
bounds. Yeah. And it was in the computer, so like yes, you're studying in the computer. Of course, it's a learning tool. It's not a gaming tool. They
Right.
didn't know this
Right.
back in the day.
Yeah, I mean, I
But
got my
yeah,
parents, my parents got my first computer for the same reason. Like, oh, I'm gonna use it for school. I was
yeah,
using that to download music and like talk to people and shit. I was like, I wrote some
exactly,
papers on it, sure, but I was mostly using it for my own entertainment, obviously.
absolutely.